really doesn't make sense. When you try to wrap your brain around it and think about it, you come away scratching your head in wonderment. How many of you have actually seen someone raised from the dead walking around here in your lifetime? Anybody? I haven't. In fact, I'd probably be a little scared if I did. You know, my mother's passed away, about 4 years now. If all of a sudden she shows up and starts walking around, I'll tell you, that would definitely cause me to be afraid. So to say that the dead are risen, it's really a stretch for most intellectual beings. Think about it. How could this really take place? When you go back to that original time, that first day of the week, it wasn't any different for them either. Dear Abby had a column many years ago in which she had put this story in there. She talked about a young man who came from a wealthy family and was about to graduate from high school. And it was the custom in that affluent society, that neighborhood, for the parents to give their graduate a card. I know my kid would sure love that thing. But in that affluent neighborhood, they did, according to her story. The young man, Bill, and his father searched for the perfect car for a long time before graduation. And just the month prior before graduation, just the timeline prior before graduation, they found what seemed to be the absolute perfect car. At his graduation, his father presented him not with the keys to a car, but with a gift-wrapped Bible. The young man was very angry, threw the Bible down, and stormed away. According to her column, the two of them did not talk, and the father passed away. When the son came home to collect his inheritance, to go through his stuff, he found that Bible that was given to him on his graduation. And he just took the Bible and he began to just kind of flip through it. And there, when he opened the Bible, was a cashier's check dated the day of his graduation for the exact amount of the car that he and his dad had chosen. But you see, he didn't want to go through the Bible when he first got it. Instead, he just threw it away, threw it aside. And I guess, as I thought about the story, I couldn't help but wonder how many people in this world have done the same thing to God. They literally toss aside the wonderful promise of God just simply because they can't believe it, because they can't wrap their head around it, because it doesn't really make sense. How could anybody really come from the dead? It's a tradition, it's what we teach, it's a crutch for society, for those who need it. It's not what the intellectual world could believe. So they toss aside the promise of eternal life in order to just live their own way, separate from their Father. I come back to this story that was read to us from Luke chapter 24. And even at the end of those readings, you have Peter going away wondering to himself what happened. Last week we examined the cross. We examined how it was so important for Jesus to go to the cross. Because there on the cross, something happened that maybe we don't always put together. Jesus died, and we correctly say so because of sin, but I want you to think about death for just a moment. Death is meant not so much as a physical ending of life, but really from a biblical concept, death is about a separation from God. It's about a tearing apart between something or someone and God. When Satan and his angels rebelled against God, they were cast away from God. There was a separation that took place, a death, if you will, that had taken place. In fact, hell was created specifically for Satan and his angels as a second death. When mankind sinned, Adam and Eve didn't fall over dead in the Garden of Eden, but they died that day, separated from God. Sin has always separated us. So when Jesus goes to the cross, he goes there because you have to somehow reconcile the punishment of sin. The punishment for sin has always been death. Always. It has always been a separation from God. So when Jesus goes to the cross, it's not just to have a perfect person, hang upon a cross. You can kill a perfect person, a little child, if you will, but that wouldn't save mankind, would it? It wasn't just about perfection, even though we think about that. And that is true. Jesus was perfect. Please don't take that wrong. But it was about God paying a price. And that price was separation. One of the very last cries of the cross, if you remember, is Jesus crying out in a loud voice in Aramaic, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. We translated it to English. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why? Because there on the cross, Jesus took my sin and your sin. Because there on the cross, the sin of mankind would come onto that perfect being, that God-man, and hang, separating, in a sense, a death would take place that had never, ever, ever been conceived before. Well, been conceived by God, but never experienced before. And he cries out with a louder voice, and he gives up his spirit. Do you think God is in anguish as he knows, the Father knows what is happening there during that timeline of the cross? Before Jesus cries out those final words, for 3 hours, from noon until 3 o'clock, the sun refused to shine. That's not symbolic. That's real. The very first aspect of creation was, let there be light. But no light would shine that day. Nothing. Darkness would come over the face of the land. The earth would shake. The rocks would break. And as Jesus gave up his spirit, it says that the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. That those who were dead, the holy who were dead, were brought back to life and walked the streets of Jerusalem and began to teach. Something happened on the cross that is far different than anything any person could ever have thought. Sin was placed there. Did he die? Well, I guarantee you there's a Roman soldier that would confirm his death. He'd take a spear and he would thrust it up into the side of Jesus, puncturing the very heart and lungs of God. And out would flow water and blood already beginning to separate. The soldier confirmed that he was dead. The Roman government believed he was dead. They allowed Jesus to be taken down from the cross. Even the Jews who hated him believed he was dead. They made that as a statement. Jesus was wrapped in burial clothes or in linen, covered in spice, laid in a rich man's tomb. But you see, these Jews who listened enough to know, who couldn't really make sense of it all and wrap their head around it, remembered that he said that in 3 days he would come back to life. In 3 days he would rebuild the temple. I think these men really believed far more than even his apostles believed. For they went to Pilate and they said to him, I want you to seal the tomb itself where Jesus is laid, unless someone come and try to steal the body away. Put guards out there. Take your signet ring. Make sure that that thing is sealed, that nobody can come away and do that. We know what he has said. Pilate says, so be it, it is done. Oh, they would confirm he is dead. There's no doubt about that. There's no swooning of the cross. There's no, well, I'm just not sure. He's dead. And he's buried. They just simply couldn't understand. But Sunday came. The first day of the week. And the women went to the tomb, as they had been doing over the last several days. But you see, on Saturday or Friday, keep going back if you will, depending on how you see it,